Always wear the appropriate personal protective equipment and stay safe on the job site. These videos are made for entertainment purposes only. What's up, guys? Just running to do the last job. I'm trying to get it done. So anyways, today we're just going to be mudding it, making it look good. As you saw in the beginning of the video, I got cut off pretty hard, and guess what? The people in front of me are the ones that cut me off, and they're not going any faster. That's the way the world works these days. Hurry up and stop. Anyways, gonna get that done, get it all mudded up, and get on to getting on. Oh, he just cut in front of me again. Oh, alright, whatever. See you at the job site. So this is just a recap of yesterday's work. Not sure if you can hear the cricket, but he's still there. Anyways, let's get on to doing it. So you'll hear my trowel going over top of the screws, and that noise you're hearing is because the screw is too tall. So I just have to tuck it down, and that's because my drywall gun wasn't set to the appropriate depth yesterday. I didn't catch it in time, so a couple of these sheets just need to be tucked down. That's pretty simple. It's just taking the impact and just giving a couple quick pulls of the trigger, and your screws are right as rain. Give that nice little dimple for the drywall to fit into. So I'm going with the trowel over again, and you'll notice the difference in the tone when the screw is underneath the trowel and when the screw is above where it hits the trowel. And you want to hear that nice little sound of just the trowel, no tapping. And again, you'll notice here the reason why I go the one way is because that way I don't jab the blade of the trowel into the screw. Otherwise you would damage that. Even though it might be a little bit simpler maybe, you just want to make sure you keep the blade of the trowel straight and true. And once again, you just take your impact, stick it into the screw, a couple pulls of the trigger where it'll torque the screw into place. Don't go overboard, because it'll just go straight through the drywall. We just want to tuck it in nice and smooth, giving us that little dimple for the mud to cover it up. And after that, we wait for it to dry, and then we sand. So this is the future project of where we're going to be installing a fireplace. I'll make a separate video for this, but for now, we're just taking measurements, and then we're going to check the box where it's going to be dropped into. And I believe my measurements are correct. I just want to double check after originally measuring this out, and we have lots of room. Now there's a bunch of things that have to be done in here. One is the exhaust in the back there, you'll see it, and that has to be moved if they want to. My friends want to move the fireplace up, which is what we want to do. Here what you're looking at is the original crown molding to the house before somebody put in the probably from the builder put in the fireplace mantle. Pretty nifty to see that. And then now we're going to be mixing up the mud, and it's important to mix the mud before you start using it. Whether you've mixed it before or you're mixing it now, you just get the big paddle bit and you stick it in. Make sure your batteries are charged up so that you don't stress out the drill too much. My drill is a 3-speed DeWalt, and I get the biggest drill that DeWalt offers for this kind of stuff. It's still underpowered, but for the most part it does me really good. And because I don't have the Joyce version of this or the mixing drill version of this. Either one of those would work really well, and it would mix up the mud no problem. But you'll see here that this 3-speed transmission drill works excellent. No problem with it mixing everything up. So again, it's very important to mix your mud before you start using it. Now I kind of went overkill with this, but hey, you get the idea. We'll move on. So the next thing you're going to see me do after I've mixed it all up and I've cleaned it, make sure you always clean your drywall tools and or concrete tools as soon as you're finished with them. It's easier with the drywall tools, not so much with the concrete tools, and I always joke with the guys, when's concrete cleaning day? Every day. Now you'll see me here, I put the camera on high speed here, and I'm taking mud from the trowel from the hawk to the trowel and putting it onto the box. And this is just a pretty simple version of this going across. The stairs are just above me, So I've just kind of started it this way because it's easy for me to get access to at this point. Eventually what I'll do is I'll get the 2-step or the 3-step with the stairs down, or the ladder that's in place there, but right now it's just kind of convenient. And this is your first coat, so it's not going to be pretty. It's going to look pretty. It's going to look like a dog's breakfast. It's not going to look pretty. I know I just said pretty, but I'm going to say pretty much like a dog's breakfast. And hey, you sand it, you coat it again, then you're kind of up to what could be passable for a garage. And then after that, it's a nice skim coat, and that's when you're passable to be lived in. We're not going that far. We'll just probably skim this one more time and give it a quick sand, and it's done. Now the reason for this is because there'll be divots, there'll be the pop marks, there'll be bubbles in the mud. Not everything gets thinned out when you're mixing it, and it's just one of those things that you just have to kind of deal with. Now that being said, it's a lot of fun to do your own kind of work like this, mudding, using the trowel and whatnot. And if you look at it as an exercise, you can actually stretch out, smooth everything out, and it's a bit of an art form. To do this kind of work, it is literally an art form. Keeping your hand nice and steady, coming across, and basically look at it as like cake mix or pancake mix, the way you use it, and bringing your trowel around, making it smooth or close to as smooth as possible. Over time, you will learn this art form, and it'll become a lot easier for you. So that being said, enjoy. In some cases where there's a lot of mud to be placed, I will come across the header in this case, and I'll fill the area, and then I'll let it sit for a while to set up, and then I'll put the fiber tape over top of it and then re-mud it. So as that's setting up, I'm going to mud up the other area that needs a lot of mud and a lot of attention underneath the staircase where the platform is there, and then I'll come back across and then mud one final time across the header itself. And you'll see right here coming across, nice and clean, and that's how it's done. Now in this next part of the video, you're going to see me with the mesh tape. You can use paper tape, but I don't have the equipment for that, so I tend to use mesh tape, and I find I get a better product once I'm finished. So basically, you get a fresh roll of fiber tape, mesh tape, and you just place it on. It's got that sticky side, so sticky side down, in this case, sticky side up, or sticky side against the wall. And you just run your hand along it, nice and easy. If you need to reset it, you can do that. And it's just basically like using tape. It's mesh tape. And it's excellent to use. And if it does fall down like you see right there, it's easily to be placed back up. And I sometimes will mud behind it, just a nice thin coat, put the mesh tape into place. It's a bit messier that way, but then you get both sides of the mesh tape. That's the more common practice with paper tape and then mesh tape. Now, that being the case, it all depends on how tight your seams are. These seams right now, as you can tell, are very tight like a tiger. So I just put the mesh tape across and we're done. Now we're just taking a quick look so you can see how close I've come in with the joints, where the mesh tape is going to set up. And I've left some of the areas open because I still have to go over them. I didn't have the mesh tape in place, so I just did not put any mud over top of that. And you'll see here that all my joints line up. Tentatively speaking, most people stagger them like that pass joint right there. You can do either way. And the reason why I chose to have all my joints match up in that one area, it was a personal experiment to see if the joint popped. Now this is a garage, and I wouldn't do that in a home, but I wanted to see if the joint would be just as strong as a staggered drywall pieces, which is typically what you do. Now you've seen how tight the joints are in the drywall. Now there's some areas in here that you'll notice that are not tight. They have spaces. That's going to happen as well. And you're able to fill that with mud. Typically what I'll do is I'll fill it with mud. And sometimes I'll use compound 90 or compound 45, and I'll tape over it. And then at that point, I will mud over top of the tape. So you'll have like a couple layers of tape for the first coat. And that helps out a lot, especially when you're trying to create drywall in some areas. Now, you can also use drywall as a kind of like a bond or a glue, in the sense that if you have a free-floating drywall piece, and there was one area in the garage that you had 1 inch piece, there was no wood backer behind it, but I also did it so that the drywall would sit on top of the other wall drywall, kind of like it would be the ceiling sitting on top of the walls, which is typically how you do it. You do the ceiling first, and then you board the walls, at which point the ceiling will be sitting on top of the walls, and it creates a better structure. If by chance you needed to throw a piece of drywall up there that was very small, you could actually use the drywall compound as a glue, and you put the mud or the drywall compound on the joint side and on the wall side, so that when you put the drywall piece into place, it will harden and then become bonded to that other drywall, and you just tape over it and whatnot. And again, this is only like a 1 inch piece, and it goes maybe 35.5 inches, and that was it. So it was a very small piece to tuck in there, and then I have the rest of the walls surrounding it on 2 sides to hold it into place. And I also cut it just enough that it'd be friction fitted into that place, so it's held up by 2 sides, and it's friction fitted because it's hitting the other drywall and the end of the wall. So it is there just floating, but it's friction fitted into place, as I keep repeating myself. And then you mud it, tape it, mud it again, and it's not going to move. Even if it does pop a little bit, it's not really a big deal. Again, this is a garage. I wouldn't do this in a home. I would find a piece of wood, and I would fit that piece of wood into place and then screw the drywall into place. But like I said, this is a garage, doing it for a friend, and it's not a big deal. So now we've completed the project. This one I could take you along and taking a quick, nice little handheld panoramic. And this is just the, that was my knee snapping. This is just the first coat. So it's gonna look rough. I don't know if you heard that. That was an apple in the background hitting the Jeep. And this is just the first coat. You'll see it starting to dry. And it's looking good. This is a photo or panoramic view of the header there. It's also looking pretty daggone good. And whenever you're done with the mud, this is very important, make sure that you keep it smooth. So use a trowel, bring it back into one single level, and then seal the bucket tight. I do the same thing with paint cans. So I get the lip of the bucket, and then I just walk around it, and it pops back into place. That way it's available for next time. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.